Vin Diesel has always kept a part of his life secret. Not the fame or the movies, but something much more private. It was not only rare what people found inside his private garage when the doors were finally opened. It was strange and totally unexpected. Cars with sad stories, unique gifts, and secret memories. There is even one car that can only be owned by 7 people in the whole world. It's more than just a closet. You'll be shocked by what's inside, because one car changes everything. Let's find out. Part 1. The man behind the machine. Vin Diesel is not who you think he is. You have seen him race through buildings or drive muscle cars off of cliffs. You know the sound of the growl, the muscles, and the word family that plays over and over in the Fast and Furious movies? But what if I told you that there is a man who takes his engines very seriously behind all that movie chaos? That Vin Diesel has been quietly working on something much more personal and shocking behind the explosions and burned rubber on screen. What does a man like that hide in his garage? What do those cars say about the real Vin Diesel? Mark Sinclair was there before Dom Toretto. That's Vin Diesel's real name. He was born in Alameda County and grew up in work-class New York City. People who were different from him and artists were his friends when he was young. His first job wasn't as an actor, it was as a bouncer at a club. He didn't get his first chance to direct until he had saved up and made his first short film on a very small budget. Diesel didn't just become famous. Like he would with one of his favorite fast cars, he put it together piece by piece. And once, the Fast and the Furious made him famous all over the world. He didn't just agree to play Dominic Toretto, he changed the script to show something more. Now for the first twist. Vin Diesel didn't just play Dom, he turned into him, or maybe it was the other way around. Diesel has said in interviews that he had a little say in how the character turned out from the start, pushing for more emotional depth, more personal stakes, and most importantly, more cars that mattered. Diesel could choose the car, which is different from many Hollywood stars who just show up and drive whatever looks cool. It's not that the 1970 Dodge Charger looked good that it was chosen. It was chosen because it had heart. Diesel doesn't talk about cars in terms of numbers, but in terms of how they make him feel. It is this mixing of who a man is with his character. That's why his garage in real life looks like a scene that was cut from the movie. It's not just a bunch of fake cars, though. It's not the cold store of a rich person. Diesel cars have scuff marks, grease, and meaning. There won't be a plaque on every car, but there will be stories. The Charger, the Chevelle, and the Supra are not prizes. They remind him of important times in his life and work. Most people don't know this, but Vin Diesel has always loved cars, even before Fast and Furious. It was there already. Private, quiet, and obsessed. He's not just a car driver. He looks into it. What's inside, how it works under stress, and how the torque feels when you step on the gas at the right time are all things he will tell you. His view is that robots are not machines. The conversations are real. They answer. They make him think of something. How far he's come and how much he still wants to stay the same. Most interesting is how that garage has slowly filled up with cars that have nothing to do with the movies. No one saw that coming. A few were shown on the screen. The 1970 Chevelle SS, a Hypersport leak-in from Furious 7, and the punk rock Dodge Charger. Some, on the other hand, were never even a part of the brand. The Pontiac Bonneville from 1960. The 1993 Mazda RX-7, the Subaru Impreza, and a Sprinter van from Tyrese Gibson that had a fridge and TV built in. The story writers didn't pick these. Vin picked them without any cameras or tricks being done. In a lot of ways, they show even more than the movie cars. What people mean when they say they were shocked when they looked in Vin Diesel's garage isn't just horsepower. When the camera stops rolling and the engine is turned off, they talk about who Diesel really is. He is a man who found himself through movies, but also through metal, grease, and grit. Now that the doors to his private garage are open, we can see more than just what he drives. We can see what he values. And that's just the start. Part 2 is inside the garage. They didn't just break into Vin Diesel's garage. They found out something that no one in Hollywood was expecting. This wasn't a fancy photo op or a well-thought-out showroom display. They were shocked by what they found. He has been making movies about fast races, exploding engines, and pumped-up street fights for more than 20 years. In his spare time, he has built a garage that is just as extreme as the movies he stars in. But here's the catch. Some of the cars are so well known that you can recognize them right away from the screen. Some of them have never been seen by anyone before now. Every one of them, well known or not, tells you something important about the man who owns it. Why does Diesel always keep the Chevelle SS in perfect shape but never talk about it? Why does he keep a Supra that was never used in any of his scenes? Also, what kind of person buys a car whose headlights have diamonds in them? You don't just walk into Vin Diesel's garage like you would into a store. You are not being given a brochure. You don't have a nice silk rope to show you where to stand. You get something much more personal instead. There is a reason for every part of the garage. Some places are set aside for maintenance and active tuning. Some are quiet shrines to cars that clearly have a lot of personal value for the people who live there. The movie stars, muscle cars, and hypercars take up most of one side. Fans of builds have learned every frame by heart. The other side? That's cool. There are cars that were meant to be in Fast and Furious but were never made. These cars still show Diesel's life, his ideals, and his relationships. First, we have the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS, which isn't just Diesel's favorite car. It's almost like an extension of who he is. It was in Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and a short part of Fast and Furious 6. In a street race, Dom drives a heavily modified version of it, and the car later shows up again in flashbacks and dramatic scenes all through the series. It's not just a piece of movie gear for Diesel, though. He once joked about stealing one from the set in an interview. He said it was one of the perks of being both the lead actor and the director. When he said it, he smiled. He wasn't joking, though. The one he really has doesn't have any fancy stickers or CGI polish on it. It's simple, clean, and real. This car has a 7.5-liter V8 engine that can make 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. With that much torque, the car has a lot of pulling power, especially when going slowly. This makes it great for speeding up. It's clear. It only takes 5 seconds for this to go from 0 to 60. Even though the Chevelle is old and heavy, that's faster than many new racing cars. At the time it was made, it was one of the fastest accelerating muscle cars ever, and Diesel's real-life version is kept in great shape. The Chevelle isn't flashy, though. That's the point. Like the man who owns it, it's strong, grounded, and almost fiercely old-fashioned. It says a lot that Diesel likes it. It's not the strangest or most expensive car in the garage, but it has heart. And that's more important to Diesel than being able to brag. And then there's the Toyota Supra from 1994. Most people think it's just the car from the first movie, the one Brian, Paul Walker, plays, brings to Dom's garage as a peace gift. But Diesel has a very different idea of what the Supra means. The car from the movie isn't this exact copy. It's not painted bright orange and doesn't have the same race mods. Actually, it's not that loud. Almost on purpose so. Why? Diesel doesn't keep it as a showpiece. He keeps it in his mind. Paul Walker owned the Supra. Yes, in Fast and Furious, but also in real life. Walker really liked that model. The car he drove in the movie had a 3-liter inline-6 engine with 2 turbochargers that made 321 horsepower and 315 lb-ft of torque. That was pretty good for the time, especially since the Supra was larger. In the movie, it went from being junk to being a monster for street races. Away from the screen, it became a sign. The Supra became a memorial to Paul Walker's death in 2013. One of the original cars used in the movie sold at auction for more than $500,000, which is a huge amount of money for a car that cost around $40,000 to begin with. It's not likely that Diesel's version would sell for that much at auction. That's the point. He does not keep it because of its value. It makes him think of his friend and the reason why Fast and Furious isn't just action scenes, so he keeps it. It's about getting together. The Lincoln Hypersport is the next one. The most expensive car in the whole group. They were only ever made in 7 copies. Diesel has 1. Take a moment to think about that. It's true that there are more Fast and Furious movies than Hypersports. It costs $3.8 million for this car. It's not a mistake. That makes it the 3rd most expensive car ever made. And for a good reason. There is a 3.7-liter twin-turbo flat-6 engine under the hood. 780 horsepower and 708 pound-feet of torque are possible. It can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.8 seconds and go as fast as 245 miles per hour. That's as fast as Formula 1 race cars during a race. But the most crazy thing isn't even the speed. It has stars around the edges of the headlights. Gold thread is used to stitch the seats together. The materials inside can be changed to include platinum, rubies, or sapphires, depending on what the owner wants. This car is more of an idea than a real car, it's like a rich person's crazy dream come true. Diesel has designed everything in his garage, including this one. However, he has never told the public what kind of jewels he chose. He might have thought it was too personal to talk about. He might have wanted to hide something. This is what we know. In Furious 7, Dom and Brian drive a Lykan Hypersport from one Abu Dhabi building to another, and then to another. This is one of the craziest scenes in the whole series. We all know that car was just a stunt copy made of cheaper materials, but Diesel really does own the real one. His won't be thrown out of a 20-story window like the one in the movie. Still, even with all of these one-of-a-kind machines, there is one car that stands out because of how quietly it turns heads. The Dodge Charger Daytona from 1969. There were only 503 of these cars ever made. Diesel's version has been fixed up almost perfectly. Aside from the other cars in his garage, this is the only one that looks better up close. The Daytona wasn't any old car. From the factory, it was ready for NASCAR. It had a huge rear wing, a pointed nose that made it more aerodynamic, and a design that broke speed records when it first came out. The wing did more than look good. It was a big step forward in engineering. It kept the car stable at high speeds, stopping rear-end lift and letting it hug the track at over 200 miles per hour. It could reach that number, too. It wasn't movie magic. It was physics and math. American genius at its best. Something is clear from the fact that Diesel has won and it doesn't play a big role in the movies. It lets you know that not all of his cars are on display. Some of them are there because he respects the science behind them, the history of cars, and what they were made to do. These cars, whether they're worth 500,000 or several million, aren't used for what most people think they are. Most buyers care about how rare something is and how much it can be sold for again. For Diesel, it's about who they are. The subject is memory. It's about how you feel. He thinks of Paul when he drives some cars. Some people show him how far he's come. Still others make him think of the kinds of cars that defined a time when driving meant getting a feel for the road. Not in front of a screen. When people first look into this garage, they don't just see steel and leather. They are seeing a kind of autobiography that wasn't written in words but with frames, engines, and horsepower. The prices aren't what shocks people. It comes from the fact that each car in the collection has a purpose and a place in the collection. It all makes sense. There is no museum here. It is not a storefront. It's a workspace. A place where story and machine meet, a memory bank. Part 3. Hidden gems and unexpected rides. If you thought Vin Diesel's garage was only full of million-dollar hypercars and Fast and Furious legends, you'd be wrong. There's a whole other collection behind the roaring V8s and movie power. It's quieter, stranger, and sometimes shockingly useful. These cars were never shown on TV or in movies. The ones you don't see stopped under spotlights or speeding down road maps with added graphics. But they show a side of Diesel that fans don't see very often. When he's not filming, what kind of car does an action star drive? What kind of car does Diesel pick when he doesn't care about speed but about living? Let's begin with a foe. The Pontiac Bonneville from 1960. You don't race this kind of car. It's the type of car you drive. The Bonneville is a huge piece of American engineering from a time when bigger is better wasn't a marketing slogan. It's almost 20 feet long from bumper to bumper. It was a rule of planning. This isn't a fragile piece for a collector. It's built like a tank that can move, with big chrome details and wide fenders. There are enough seats for half of the Fast and Furious group. It was thought to be one of the most luxurious full-size cars in the US when it first came out because it had power windows, an automatic transmission, and a high-compression V8 engine. The Bonneville was a sign of class and comfort in its day. It was a car for people who wanted to ride in style without giving up speed. It's a forgotten beast now. A lot of people younger than 40 have never heard of it. Vin Diesel does, though. Why? Because being there is more important than being relevant. The Bonneville has a certain power that not many new cars can match. As if it were a sculpture with an engine, it doesn't have to go fast. It just is. Diesel's version has been fixed up, but not too much. You can still see the wear lines. The inside looks old, but it's still comfortable. You can get into this type of car if you want to remember how cars used to feel. Heavy, planned, and wide without apologies. There are no touch screens or Bluetooth. There is only metal, steel, and weight. You should go slower in that car. For someone like Diesel who works in a fast-paced field, that's exactly the point. The Plymouth Barracuda from 1970 is another one. The Charger and the Chevelle get a lot more attention than this one. But for people who love power cars, the Cuda is a real icon. It was one of the first pony cars that could compete with the Chevy Camaro and the Ford Mustang. And over time, a cult formed around it. With its aggressive stance, long fastback lines, and loud exhaust, the Barracuda was made to scare. Diesel's model is said to have a big block 426 Hemi engine, which is known as the Elephant. For the reason of its size and output. The engine is reason enough to buy the car. With more than 425 horsepower, it was one of the first factory V8s to get close to race car power. Diesel's Cuda isn't just about raw force, though. It brings to mind a time when looks were just as important as ability. Every part of the car is designed to look a certain way. The hood scoops blend into the front grille, the rear panels are symmetrical, and the windows start to taper into the roofline. The goal of this car is to be seen, but not necessarily recognized. A lot of people who watch Fast and Furious movies wouldn't even know what it is, but real car fans do. The 1993 Mazda RX-7 is the next car, which is very different. There are some links between this movie and the Fast movies, especially when you count Dom's drift-heavy scenes. Or how Tokyo Street Racing shaped later movies. But Diesel's RX-7 isn't just a prop. People who like a different kind of speed will like this. The Wankel rotary engine in the RX-7 is what makes it famous. It's a one-of-a-kind design that doesn't use pistons but instead relies on a spinning rotor. Because of how it's built, it can go fast and sound very smooth, almost strange. The RX-7 is small, light, and very quick. Not like a muscle car, like a Dodge Charger, which growls and lunges, the RX-7 glides and flicks. The car isn't built to be strong, but to be quick. What's the point of Diesel having that? For the reason that he values engineering. Because he knows that speed isn't just one thing. With the RX-7, you can think in a different way. American dominance versus Japanese minimalism. It also helps that there are a lot of people who modify the RX-7. People who own them love to change, tweak, and rebuild them. Diesel likes working on things himself, so it's possible that his isn't the stock version. The most surprising thing about Vin Diesel's garage might not be any of the muscle or special cars, but the everyday cars. Sure, useful. The ones that don't make you think of Dom Toretto at all. The ones that you wouldn't normally see next to a Dodge Daytona or a Lykan Hypersport. Still, they're there. In this case, the 2010 BMW M5. Simple, sleek, and businesslike. It still has a V10 engine that makes 500 horsepower and can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 4 seconds. This isn't a display, though. People who like speed but don't want to be noticed should drive this as their daily driver. You drive it when you quickly want to blend in with the background. The 2009 Subaru Impreza is the next one. This is an odd pick. This all-wheel drive car is known for being safe, durable, and good at grip. This is the type of car that wins rally races and also gets food during the week. It makes sense for Diesel. He has a child. He's a father figure. He's always on the go between shows, meetings, and family obligations. You need something you can count on. Comfortable and out of the way. All of those things are true for the Impreza. The Range Rover is the same way. Forget about flash, it's about being able to change things. The Range Rover is the same way. Forget about flash, it's about being able to change things. Diesel's version has the standard black-on-black trim, a leather interior, and a lot of off-road ability. You can drive this kind of car to a red carpet event one day and through mud the next. It stays out of the way, rides high, and controls the road all at the same time. That mix isn't common, and it's clear that Diesel values having that kind of contrast in his personal life. But the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van might be the most surprising car in his garage. A car, yes. Not an old one or a handmade low-rider. A big, useful silver van. Why? Since it was a gift. Jones Tyrese. Diesel got it for his birthday from a friend and former co-star. But this car isn't like any other. It has a full theater system, plush leather seats, a refrigerator, and a flat-screen TV that Tyrese put in himself. It's part office, part tour bus, and part mobile bar. Diesel is said to use it on longer shooting days or when he goes on trips with his kids. Yes, it's a gift that shows how close they are as friends. But it also shows the practical side of a man who most people only think of when they think of high-speed chases. Every one of these cars shows more about Vin Diesel. He races muscle cars through parking garages that are falling apart, but he's also a dad, a director, and a quiet observer of how things work. His love for old power is shown by the Bonneville. The Barracuda shows that he sees things that are beautiful and rare. The RX-7 speaks to his love of accuracy. The BMW, Subaru, and Sprinter van show that the man also lives in the real world. A man who needs to get around without drawing too much attention to himself. 4. Paul Walker's impact, more than just metal. A lot of people never get to see this part of Vin Diesel's garage. It's quiet, not because it's locked with identification codes or behind security. It's about you. It's heavy in ways that can't be shown by top speed or power. These aren't the high-speed cars that race down the street or catch fire for stunts. These ones stay put and hold their weight. They don't belong to Diesel alone, they belong to someone who isn't here anymore. Why would a man keep a Toyota Supra that he never races? The Dodge Charger hasn't been used in years, so why keep it around? Power has nothing to do with the answer. It's all about Paul Walker. In November 2013, Paul Walker died. His death was a loss for more than just Hollywood and the Fast and Furious movies. It was a lot more personal for Vin Diesel. Walker was more than just a co-star, he was like family. At that point, they had worked together for more than 10 years. Their chemistry as Dom and Brian on screen came from being friends in real life, which grew over time and between takes. Through long talks, jokes, and respect for each other. And when they suddenly lost touch, he didn't just cry, he changed. Diesel had a hard time keeping his emotions in check in interviews after Walker's death. It's not often that he lets people in, but this time was different. He really meant it when he called Walker his brother. Diesel said that there were times when he would leave the set of Furious 7 to cry. He talked about how the cars, which weren't just props, reminded him of Walker all over the place. They were a part of the world they shared. The 1994 Toyota Supra is the most well-known of these. Brian O'Connor, played by Walker, fixes up a rusty Supra in the first Fast and the Furious movie as a way to make peace with Dom. It turns into their car and bridge, and at the end of the movie, Brian gives Dom the car to help him get away. Now that moment is famous, but back then it was just a good story. Two gearheads respecting each other through metal and grit. Diesel always remembered that. Also, he doesn't drive that Supra himself, but he still has one in his garage. It wasn't changed in any way, painted orange like in the movie, or buffed to look nice, it was just remembered. A lot of his cars are linked to Paul, not just this one. The Dodge Charger, which is Dom's signature car, is also there. In some versions, it's been greatly changed so that it can be used for stunts in the air and explosions. Diesel has a shed full of cars, but one of them is never driven. It is clean, has a cover when not in use, and is carefully parked. Since that Charger wasn't just Dom's, it was also part of Diesel and Walker's history. The movies were never really about the cars. They were about what the cars stood for. Duty, brotherhood, and giving up something. This thought goes far beyond the vehicles as well. Diesel is grandpa to Hall's daughter Meta Walker. He wasn't scared of the part. He really cares about her and treats her like family. Diesel was the one who walked her down the aisle on her wedding day. Not for show or to get attention. But because that's what family does. To show even more respect for Paul, they named their youngest daughter Pauline. Not just by accident and not as a middle name. Every day, her name makes him think of the person who changed his life. Diesel created a set of personal rituals in the years after Walker's death as a way to remember, honor, and keep Paul alive. He often goes to the garage by himself, especially before filming for new Fast and Furious movies. He looks over the cars. He checks the Supra for dirt and runs his hands along the Charger's hood. He has said that he talks to Paul when it's quiet. It doesn't matter if you believe that or not. For Diesel, the cars are the conversations that count. People paid respect to the Fast and Furious movies themselves. The franchise could have gone in a different way after Paul died. More blasts, new stars, and changes in the business world. Diesel insisted, though, that Brian's spirit live on. the last scene of Furious 7 doesn't end with a crash or a race. At the end, Dom's and Brian's cars are seen pulling away from each other on a sunny road. The camera stays put. There are no words, just a drive. That scene, which was written and finished with Diesel's help, was more than just a movie goodbye. It was true. It was about them. It's not enough to just park a Supra in the garage. It's about holding on to the feeling of that last drive. The thought that something was important. That person was important. Because of Furious 7, Diesel says that Paul is in every movie in some way. No matter if the fans notice or not. At times, it's the name of a character. It can be a reference in the conversation other times. It's sometimes in the music. It's always there, though. That's why these cars are more than just cars. It's not an investment. They're not signs of wealth. They are monuments that move around. Computers that can store data. Diesel doesn't keep these because they are hard to find. They are holy, so he collects them. He doesn't brag about them. He keeps them safe. Some motions are not as well known. Things Diesel has never fully talked about. On some birthdays, he has been known to light a candle in the garage and spend time by himself with Paul's cars. Reports say that he has kept scribbled notes between himself and Walker. Some were tucked into the glove boxes. A person who knows Diesel well said that they found a folded photo of Paul in the Charger's visor. Old and worn, but still there. Thanks for seeing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you liked it. To see more fun videos, click on the next one.